All right, so had to do a little shopping. Bought some more clothes from Walmart, and got me a couple pairs of shorts and some shirts, kind of black and white. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, but we're not that white, and you're not that black, are you? No. Quit calling yourself by color anyway. You're playing to their game. You're human beings. Last time I checked, all of us. And we're not white or black, by the way. Even though albino has pupils that are black. But only the pupils are black, right? By the way. I know. When you rate someone by the color of their skin, right, you're trying to see yin and yang. You're yin or yang, by the way, when you do that. I don't know. Yin and yang are a force together. And they're not always opposite of each other. So if you just divide things into simple categories, you can even be good and evil to each other. There's another thing, right? Being good only, right? See, that's a choice you have too. Or evil even only, right? That's the choice you have. Didn't Jesus say I would have you cold or hot? Don't you think that's what that means? Either be good and evil, right? Or good or evil, right? Because you're being one of the three at different degrees, right? If you're 30-fold, right? All right, you're still cold, right? If you're 60-fold, you're getting warmer. If you're 100-fold, you're hot, right? But it's all in the margins, right? If you're just lukewarm, 50-50 all the time, right? You're not helping either side, right? Another thing, right? So, now this one is good in that it tells you who's whom, right? And then, so, gonna read the last chapter. If only you were to me like a brother who was nursed at my mother's breast, again, right? Then if I found you outside, I would kiss you, and no one would despise me. I would lead you and bring you to my mother's house, she who has taught me. I will give you spiced wine to drink, the nectar of my pomegranates. Uh-oh, what does that mean? She's got pomegranates too, don't she, right? Her mother's breast. Uh-oh, I didn't say that. He lifts, his left arm is under my head, and his right arm doth embrace me. Let's see if I can show that to you now. So, left arm, right arm. He's embracing her. For what? Kiss on the mouth. Jesus may have often kissed Mary. Where though? On the mouth? Like in Song of Solomon? They're trying to tell you something about him and Mary's relationship. That the others, the Orthodox, don't want you to know about him and Mary. You think? So who's lying? The Orthodox or the Gnostics? The Orthodox. They're being lukewarm. They're hiding the truth. They're in the sin. And won't repent of their sin either, are they? They're continuing in sin that grace may abound. Right. Uh-oh. Jesus, I don't want you doing that either. Right. So he works with you while you're sinning. Right. And you can sin till you die. Is that a problem for Jesus or a problem for you, though? Probably a problem for you, and there ain't nothing Jesus can do about it if you do, right? Whole point to the sin nature, right? Then she says, daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desire. Who is this coming up from the wilderness, leaning on her beloved, right? Under the apple tree I roused you. There your mother conceived you under the apple tree. Oops, there goes another apple tree. Oops, there goes. Me and Sheena did that too a little bit. Uh-oh. I don't guess I got that from Song of Solomon, Sheena. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm not reading the Bible more than them either. And they're trying to teach me their doctrine like you. I don't know what I was doing by having sex with you under the trees in the park. Go figure. Alright. There she who was in labor gave you birth, right? Place me like a seal over your heart, like a seal on your arm. For love is as strong as death. Its jealousy unyielding as the grave, right? I think that's just jealousy, by the way, not love. It burns like blazing fire, like a mighty flame. Many waters cannot quench love. Rivers cannot sweep it away. If one were to give all the wealth of one's house for love, it would be utterly scorned. Right? We have a little sister, and her breasts are not yet grown. Because she grows them as she gets older. Right? Now, some of you have what's called small breasts, but it still don't mean you ain't a woman. Right? Little breasts on a 19-year-old Justine still makes you legal for being 19. And she's always a woman to me. Alright, what shall we do for our sister on that day she is spoken for? If she is a wall, we will build towers of silver on her. If she is a door, we will enclose her with panels of cedar. And back then, you had wooden doors, right? Sometimes in a palace, made of stone. Okay. She says, I am a wall, and my breasts like towers, that I have become in his eyes like one bringing contentment. Solomon had a vineyard in Baal Hamon. He let out his vineyards to tenants. Each was to bring for its fruit 1,000 shekels of silver, but my own vineyard is mine to give. The 1,000 shekels are for you, Solomon, and 200 are for those who tend its fruit. See, what she's talking about is keeping herself only for who? Solomon. But she also wants to pay those who kept her fruit. You know what I mean? Didn't try to her. Right. You who dwell in the garden with my friends in attendance, let me hear your voice. This is supposed to be he. Then it goes back to she. Come away, my beloved, and be like a gazelle or like a young stag on the spice-laden mountains. The end. Now, like I told you, fruit of the body is another metaphor for sex. Be fruitful and multiply. Didn't God say that to them all in Genesis? Even the animals, right? Right. But the animals do it doggy style or animal style, whereas we can do it in many positions, even standing up. Right. To sitting down, to laying down, to man on top, woman on top, and animal style too. Okay. Well, you're not reading what I'm reading from the Bible, I guess. At all. I'm just having a good old time with it, trying to find me a girlfriend, y'all interfering. Bad. Mm-hmm. I know it's supposed to be one woman if I'm a bishop or deacon, but I'm also a prophet. Do I get more than one? Oh, I already had 17 ex-lovers, right? And one ex-wife, right? And I'm not trying to find another ex-wife, though, ladies, right? Unless you know the game, and you don't mind playing the game with me, right? We can play the game now if you're honest, right? If you're dishonest, well, that ain't gonna work out, is it? Now let's see how it's read differently, though, in the King James, right? This is also the last chapter there. But we're not done with the Song of Solomon yet. No, we're just beginning to study, right? We're just beginning to look into it. We don't even know a tenth of it now. We just started dwelling into it, delving into it, right? Trying to understand it, right? Who are these people? What are they talking about? Can you picture it? So again, let's read it again. From a different version. Oh, that thou wert as my brother. Sounds familiar. But worded a little differently, that's all. That sucked the breast of my mother when I should find thee without, I would kiss thee, yea, I should not be despised, I would lead thee and bring thee into my mother's house, who would instruct me. I would cause thee to drink of spiced wine, of the juice of my pomegranates. Little bit different. What she means by juice, ladies? Do you know? Do you have any juice in you? I don't know. You don't get wet, do you, ladies? I don't know. You don't have any juice in your pomegranates. Either do you. Right. Oh, only when you're having a baby and need to nurse it out, right? Right. Then it swells up like a melon. Don't they? Don't they? You might even get bigger ones, Justine, than when I first saw you. A little bit. All right. Now we're back to his left hand. Should be under my head. And his right hand should embrace me. Now, do you think Jesus knew of the Song of Solomon? With the woman at the well, at least? Even if he wasn't married? know. I don't know. Or you don't want to know, right? See, the Bible's written to all who want to read it, right? But if you don't read it, it's of none effect. If you teach a doctrine, you might be missing something in the Bible that says. You're not preaching what it says, you're preaching what you want it to say. From what you're reading. Even Satan can do that. I know. See, this is talking about romantic love too, it seems, ain't it? Very romantic. Not a little or a lot, huh? So, I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, that ye stir not up nor awake my love until he please. Mm-hmm. Who is this that cometh up from the wilderness, leaning upon her beloved? I raised thee up under the apple tree. Mm-hmm. There thy mother brought thee forth, or conceived thee, right? Mm-hmm. She brought thee forth that bare thee, right? So they're kind of going in a different direction with the King James, right? Because back then, they didn't even know how conception worked. No. But now we do. Else Henry VIII wouldn't have killed all his wives for only having girl daughters. That's his fault, by the way, stupid English. Bad Englishmen. You're thinking with another head, not your brain. Your pleasure center, baby, of the brain. But not using your noggin, right? Richard Noggin. I got that finally. Your noggin is another word for the head, right? Okay. Yeah. Took me a while. Who is this that cometh up from the wilderness, leaning upon her beloved? I raised thee up under the apple tree. There thy mother brought thee forth. There she brought thee forth that bare thee. Set me as a seal upon thine heart, as a seal upon thine arm, for love is strong as death. Jealousy is cruel as the grave. The coals thereof are coals of fire, which hath a most vehement flame. So again, like I told you, is jealousy good or bad, right? It can be both, right? Now, if you have a girlfriend, though, right, and she's trying to break up with you, right, because she doesn't want to be with you anymore, that's her choice. Even if you're having sex. Okay? Now, the thing is, ladies, no one wants a girlfriend or a wife, right, who has a package on board already. Right? The early delivery system works just as well. when you have premarital sex or wait for marriage. Once the sperm meets the egg, conception occurs, and 9 months later comes shame with the baby carriage. Not immediately either. So you grow up from the children's nursery rhyme. First comes love. Then comes marriage. You don't even have a clue what those two things are when you say the little nursery rhyme. Then comes shame with the baby carriage. Woo! Not exactly. What they want you to do is then comes love, then comes sex after marriage, then 9 months later comes Shane needing a baby carriage. If you know what I mean, right? That's how it really works. We have a little sister, and she has no breasts. What shall we do for our sister in the day when she is spoken for? She shall be spoken for. So, unfortunately, maybe even back then, to prevent premarital sex, they may have engaged the daughters as early as 9. At least they do it in Islam, right? I heard of one girl being engaged at 4 to a man, right? But again, right? That's in Islam. In Christianity, Paul's trying to act like the dad could keep his virgin or not, right? That's what he's talking about. Idiot. Engaging her to somebody or not, right? You're not even reading that right to them. I don't know what the hell Christian Fellowship Church is trying to say in their doctrine, but none of it made sense until I started reading the whole Bible, and then I realized they didn't even have it halfway right. They're not even 30-fold in the Lord, thinking they're 100-fold, right? That's the sad thing about it, right? They don't know how wrong they are. They're just teaching themselves and reading over and over again the same passages, right? Not growing in the Lord, but staying where they're at, right? That's no growth, right? You're like those among the thorns, right? Who are choking yourself out on a false doctrine, right? And don't even know it's a false doctrine, right? You're feeding yourself your version of Christianity, right? Based on Pastor Davis's study of the Bible, which is carnal of him, right? Not spiritual of him, right? He's not reading it as a whole to you, right? But just the parts he likes, he's showing to you. Over and over and over again. Bible study after Bible study after Bible study. Nothing deeper in the Bible either, right? You got 66 books in this book. Yet the main passage he speaks about are barely mentioned sometimes in the book he's using, or the author who was penned as, say, Jeremiah or whoever. Though usually they had scribes to write it down, like Jeremiah had Baruch. Did you know that? Right. Jeremiah didn't write Jeremiah. Baruch wrote it for him. He was his scribe. And even then, the scribe may not have wrote everything down. Jeremiah said, we don't know. We don't know. He wrote what he thought his audience needed sometimes, right? And that's all they kind of wrote about, too. They didn't go into a lot of detail like I told you anyway. And, Bathsheba got pregnant shortly after she was with David, but you also know it takes 9 months to have a baby, right? Okay, that's the detail left out, but automatically it took her 9 months to have the baby, right? Now, what was David's problem, right? With all that? Anyway, I know. He's the one watching her bathe. She may not have even known he saw her. If you're up in higher plane and she's down in the city, right, she may be bathing, in her mind, in privacy, right? But she, if other women were or weren't, we don't know. By the way, it only focuses on one of them, perhaps in line of sight of David as well. Though he could also probably see, because guess what? Bathsheba ain't the only one who had to purify herself every month, right? Other women did too. And so you're not thinking outside the box, you're just seeing the little box. The tiny, tiny, tiny portion they're telling you. Well, like Transformers, more than meets the eye. You hear that all the time too, right? The Bible is a guideline, right? It's not perfect because it was written by men who might have not wrote down everything. Don't you think that's what John means at the end of his own gospel? Hey, wait a minute now, though. We don't tell you everything Jesus did. If we were to tell you everything, we don't think no book or no library could contain it all. That also means he did more than they wrote down. One is called an oral tradition, by the way, which stood for at least 300 years until the Orthodox got a hold of Constantine and he had to make a decision between which sect of Christianity he liked best, Gnostic or Orthodox, and guess which he chose, being a Roman emperor? Orthodox. Over Gnostic. Gnostic means knowing God, right? Now you're to know something about your God. You're not to be orthodox about it either. Orthodox just sees what is apparent in the scriptures, what they seem to be saying to them, right? Anyone can say God's a man if you read the Bible because it was written by men, right? Even during the disciples' days, the women had nothing to do with writing out the Gospels. Men did that. And they either use a scribe, by the way, or write it themselves. Now again, how do you know which is which? Let's finish this real quick. So, if she is a wall, we will build upon her a palace of silver. And if she be a door, we will enclose her with boards of cedar. I am a wall, and my breasts like towers. Then was I in his eyes as one that found favor. Solomon had a vineyard in Baal Hamon. He let out the vineyard unto keepers, every one for the fruit thereof was to bring 1,000 shekels pieces of silver. Now, this one says shekels, by the way, I thought. Right. Or, yeah, shekels. But they say pieces for some reason. My vineyard, which is mine, is before me. Thou, O Solomon, must have 1,000, and those that keep the fruit thereof 200. So that's 1,200 pieces, right? Or 1,200, right? Thou that dwellest in the gardens, the companions, hearken to thy voice, cause me to hear it. Mm-hmm. Make haste, my beloved, mm-hmm. And be thou like to a roe or a young hart upon the mountains of spices, right? So again, like I told you, there's two fruits. There's two doors. The woman is the door for the baby. Jesus said he himself entered in by the door. What is that? The womb of the Virgin Mary. He also said he is the door. Right? Right. That is a reference to his feminine side. Right? You're your father and your mother. And then not your mother only, not your father only. Both, the male and the female, are one in Christ Jesus. And some men don't understand mom and dad, right? Or get a bad stepdad, right? Some get a good stepdad, right? Or a decent one anyway. Nobody's perfect, right? Anyway. Now. This is called something, right? In the beginning, right? That clues you in, at least, whom the information is from. This one starts out, this is the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. And there it gives a long genealogy going back to Abraham, right? Right. Now, they attribute this to Matthew, but why? Mark starts out this way. The beginning of the gospel, the good news about Jesus the Messiah, the Son of God, as is written in Isaiah the prophets, I will send my messenger ahead of you, right? I know. Right. Now, where does it say, though, this is the Gospel of Mark? How do you get that? One, though, many have undertaken to draw up an account of the things that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed down to us by those who from the first were eyewitnesses and servants of the word. With this in mind, since I myself have carefully investigated everything from the beginning, I too decided to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus, so that you may know the certainty of the things you have been taught. Now, they say this is the physician Luke. But where does he say this? Right. They say. Right. And in the Acts, it begins again. In my former book, Theophilus, right? Theophilus. So, Acts and Luke have maybe the same author? I guess. How do they know it's Luke? Is there a way to know? At the beginning or the end, right? Listen here now. This is the end of Luke, of Acts, right? Go to this people and say, you will be ever hearing, but never understanding. You will be ever seeing, but never perceiving. For this people's heart has become calloused. They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise, they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their heart, and turn, and I would heal them. Therefore, I want you to know that God's salvation has been sent to the Gentiles, and they will listen. For 2 whole years, Paul stayed there in his own rented house and welcomed all who came to see him. He proclaimed the kingdom of God and taught about the Lord Jesus Christ with all boldness and without hindrance. But see, where does it say Luke wrote it, right? But someone did, obviously, right? Did they know Luke? Or we don't know. Who wrote the prophets, jeez? Did Jeremiah write Jeremiah? No. Baruch did. So if you know that, it don't matter who finally wrote it down, right? Someone did. Someone did. Shortly after all this happened, and Paul went to the synagogue preaching from the old. By the way, not the new. There was no new. right? So, okay, here it is. In chapter 13, verse 13, from Paphos, Paul and the companions sailed to Perga in Pamphylia, where John left them to return to Jerusalem. From Perga, they went on to Pisidian, Antioch. On the Sabbath, they entered the synagogue and sat down. After the reading from the law and the prophets, the leaders of the synagogue sent word to them, saying, "Brethren, if ye have a word of exhortation from the people, please speak." So Paul taught from what part of the Bible? The Old, Christian. You're not even teaching from the Old anymore. And what you teach from the New only causes confusion. Because the Orthodox with Emperor Constantine took over the church and changed the core belief, right? And I keep trying to explain this to you, but you have become like the Jews, right? Seeing you see not. Hearing you hear not. And you won't understand. You become worse than them, really. You become just as legal as the scribes and Pharisees of Jesus' day, right? And the problem is the law cannot save you, for you're not good enough to follow the law of the Jews, right? No man is, not even the Jews themselves. That's why Moses made it so strict, right? In a way, too, right? The law only teaches you the knowledge of good and evil. Crime and punishment, if you will. And yet, grace means, and is why, when you do something wrong, you don't even have to worry about it if no one but you and the person you wrong know about it. That, too, is how God has to deal with sin. The evil is in the person, not in God in the person. But when you blame the person who isn't being of God as if they're a God, right, you're committing idolatry against God, right? And making the person hurting you your God, right? Instead of repenting and knowing the person hurting you is able to be hurt themselves. And someone may have hurt them all the way back to Eden. where we first knew good and evil, right? Not by God, but again, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Not by the tree of life, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, who is none other than Satan himself. He's the enemy, who makes us all enemies of one another by pain and suffering. But no suffering, no temptation has taken you, even death itself, that God cannot heal it and raise you from the dead.